Let's dive into a legal case that, honestly, changed everything we thought we knew about risk, responsibility, and just common sense. It's a story that kicks off with one split-second choice, but the fallout? Well, the fallout affects every single one of us, even today. Behind all the dense legal arguments and the courtroom drama, there's a really human story. It's about a single, impulsive moment that led to a catastrophic injury and sparked a legal battle that would wind its way through the courts for years. So, picture this. It's May of 1995. It's one of those surprisingly hot days. You're at a beautiful country park, and it's packed with people trying to escape the heat. And right there, in the middle of it all, is this gorgeous, cool-looking lake. It seems like the perfect place to be. But this idyllic scene, it's about to become the setting for a tragedy. Okay, so we're at Breberton Heath Country Park. It's a public space managed by the local government, the Congleton Borough Council, and it's right here that the event that would trigger this whole legal saga took place. Now, this is where things get interesting, because you've got this major contradiction. On the one hand, the park's lake, which used to be a quarry, had signs posted everywhere. Big, clear signs that said, "Dangerous water, no swimming." But on the other hand, the council knew people swam there all the time. It was an open secret, a super popular spot. So you have the official role, and then you have what was actually happening. So, in the midst of all this, an 18-year-old named John Tomlinson decides to cool off. He runs into the water, does a shallow dive, and in that split second, he hits his head on the sandy bottom. The injury was immediate and devastating, a catastrophic spinal injury that left him paralyzed. An event like that, it just immediately raises a huge, thorny question. When someone gets hurt after ignoring a really clear warning, who's responsible? Is anyone legally to blame? And this is where the personal story blows up into this major legal conflict. So, let's boil it down to this central question the courts had to figure out. Did the Congleton Borough Council, as the owner or occupier of the park, have a legal duty to protect Mr. Tomlinson from this kind of injury, even though, technically, by going in the water, he was trespassing? Okay, so you had two completely different arguments. Mr. Tomlinson's lawyers said, look, the council knew this lake was an allurement. It was just too tempting on a hot day. They argued that just putting up a few signs wasn't nearly enough. But the council side, they argued that the danger of diving into shallow water is, well, it's obvious. They said Mr. Tomlinson was an adult, he made a choice, he ignored the signs, and he alone was responsible for what happened. Now, you might be thinking this sounds like a pretty open and shut case, one way or the other. But oh no, its journey through the court system was anything but straightforward. The answer to that big question, it changed dramatically. All right, so first up, the High Court. They sided with the council, saying Mr. Tomlinson was responsible for his own actions. Case closed, right? Wrong. The case went to the Court of Appeal, and in a pretty stunning reversal, they found for Mr. Tomlinson. They said the risk was just too great, and since the council knew everyone was swimming there, they should have done way more to stop it. And this set the stage for one last final showdown at the highest court in the UK at the time, the House of Lords. And this is where the case becomes truly historic. The judges in the House of Lords, they weren't just looking at the facts of this one incident. They were wrestling with these huge ideas about personal freedom, about social responsibility, and what the whole point of negligence law even is. The key piece of law they had to work with was something called the Occupiers Liability Act of 1984. Now, this law specifically lays out what kind of responsibility a landowner has to people who are on their property without permission. In other words, to trespassers, like Mr. Tomlinson was when he entered the water. So this act sets out a really specific three-part test. For the council to be liable, they had to tick 3 boxes. 1, they had to be aware of a danger, check. 2, they had to know people might go near that danger, check again. The whole case came down to that third point. Was it reasonable to expect the council to protect people from this specific risk? And here it is. This is the crucial distinction that changed everything. The law lords said, wait a minute. The danger here wasn't the state of the property. The lake wasn't hiding some secret submerged danger. No, the danger came from what Mr. Tomlinson did. The risk was created by his action of diving, not by the lake itself. And that line of thinking, it opens up a much, much bigger question, doesn't it? To what extent should the law step in and protect us as competent adults from the consequences of our own choices, especially when the risks are pretty darn obvious? One of the judges, Lord Hoffman, just summed it up perfectly with this quote. He basically said, if we make property owners responsible for every conceivable risk, it would be a very sorry day. People have to take some responsibility for themselves. And he argued that a legal duty to protect people from obvious risks would just make life dull and gray. So, in the end, the House of Lords sided with the council, unanimously. And that decision didn't just end this one case. It sent massive ripples throughout the entire legal system, creating a principle that stands to this day. And that gave us what's now known as the Tomlinson Principle. And when you boil it all down, it's pretty simple. The law doesn't require a property owner to protect you from an obvious danger that you willingly choose to take on. Free will comes with responsibility. So, what are the big takeaways from all this? First, the law sees a huge difference between a place being dangerous and a person doing something dangerous. Second, ideas like personal freedom and free will are right at the heart of negligence law. Third, this was a major pushback against the idea of a compensation culture where every accident has to have a payday. And finally, the court recognized that there's real social value in letting people enjoy the world, even if it comes with some risk. And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. This case, born from one person's tragic choice more than 2 decades ago, forces us to ask a question that's maybe more relevant now than ever. In our own lives and as a whole society, where do we draw that incredibly fine line between safety and freedom?